Hello, this is Tomlin from TomlinHarmonicaLessons.com. So today's harmonica lesson is going to be a little bit different because I've got a cold at the moment and I don't particularly want to play harmonica because it's gross. So this made me think, how do you practice away from the instrument? So how do you practice without a harmonica? And there are various reasons why you might want to do this. You might not have a harmonica with you. You might have a cold. You might not want to disturb your family or your friends or your neighbors. These are all good reasons not to actually practice with the instrument in your hands. But you can still get a lot out of that time. So I'm going to give you 3 ideas for how to practice away from the instrument. So the first one is the absolute easiest, and you might think that this is obvious, but it's really important, and that is listening to music. And I'm going to really emphasize this idea of listening to the music. So there's a difference between listening and hearing. Before you started learning an instrument, you probably spent a lot of your time hearing music rather than listening to it. And to me, listening means putting a little bit of cognitive effort into it. You're not just aware that there are sounds coming towards you, you're starting to think about where the beat is. So that's the first thing you can do. Listen to the music and start feeling the beat. And as you feel the beat, tap your foot in time with it, okay? And if the music is in 4/4 time, then start counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. If it's in a different time signature, count the appropriate number of beats for that. But be active in your listening. What you can also do while you're doing this is you can think about what the chord changes are. So you might be a harmonica player who doesn't play guitar or piano, but that doesn't mean that you don't need to be aware of chord changes. And it doesn't mean that you can't think about chord changes. So you probably know what a 12-bar blues feels like. So when you're listening to some blues music, you need to be thinking to yourself, is this a 12-bar blues? So start from the beginning, and if there's a turnaround at the beginning, think about what happens after the turnaround. Do we have a sequence of 12 bars? Are we getting the changes that we're expecting at the times we're expecting them? And if you're not, make a note of it, and that's something that you can explore later. That's interesting. And if it's not a 12-bar sequence, what is it? Is it an 8-bar sequence? Is it 16 bars? Is it a 1-chord blues? These are all interesting things to be aware of. And the more that you can hear them, the more that they jump out at you, the stronger your musicality will be. And that's going to pay dividends when you do actually have the instrument in your hands. Okay, so that's your first idea. Listening to music, really, really important. So the second one is a little bit harder, but incredibly powerful, and something that every great musician I've ever chatted to about it does to some extent, and that is visualizing the instrument. So having a kind of mental map of the harmonica in your mind. And Lee Sankey actually came up with a great term for this. He calls it your brainstrument, which I think is fantastic. So check out Lee Sankey's study about professional musicians versus amateur musicians and the development of their visualization of the instrument. But anyway, what do I mean by visualizing? Well, on a very basic level, you can just think about what holes you'd be playing if you were doing something very simple like the blues scale. So I'm sure you can play the blues scale, but if I said to you, okay, start the blues scale in second position, start it from the 4 below and go up and then back down the scale, and thinking of the scale between the 2 drawer and the 6 below. Obviously you can play it over the whole range of the harmonica, but just for this exercise, can you start in the middle of the scale, or do you have to start at the beginning and play all the way through and then come back down? Because if you have to start at the beginning, that tells me that all you have is muscle memory. And muscle memory is incredibly useful. And I'm not putting muscle memory down in any way. It's what we rely on in order to build up speed and good technique. But having an awareness of what you're actually playing, that gives you a real mastery of it. And that means that you can learn things faster, you can improvise more effectively, you can play those phrases that are in your mind, you can actually vocalize them through the instrument. So start off by just thinking about what that scale is. So you have the 2 draw, 3 draw half step bend, 4 blow, 4 draw half step bend, 4 draw, 5 draw, 6 blow. And as you're kind of playing through this in your mind, you will have played the blues scale in real life plenty of times. So play through it in your mind. And you can even kind of hold the harmonica, the fake harmonica, up to your mouth and just think 2 draw, 3 draw half step bend, 4 blow, 4 draw half step bend, 4 draw, 5 draw, 6 blow. And then think, okay, well, if I was starting on the 4 blow, where do I go from there? So I think 4 blow, 4 draw bend, 4 draw, 5 draw, 6 blow, 5 draw, 4 draw, 4 draw bend, 4 blow. Having that awareness of just something super simple like the blues scale is huge. And you can do this when you're learning licks or learning patterns. You can run through them in your mind. And the stronger your awareness of where the notes are, where the holes are, what you're playing at any given time, the faster you can learn and the more effective you'll be when you're playing. Okay, so visualization, that is huge, really, really useful. Even if you have a harmonica available to you, I would recommend spending some of your practice time doing visualization of the instrument. It's really, really helpful. Okay, so the third and final tip is pretty tough, and it's something that you're probably going to make a lot of mistakes with, but it's going to really exercise your brain, and that is trying to transcribe harmonica music without touching a harmonica. Okay, so you might be thinking, wow, that's going to be impossible, because when I'm transcribing by ear, I will listen to a note and I'll try and play it on the harmonica, and if it's the right note, I'll hear it. If it's the wrong note, I'll hear that it's a different one, and I'll look for the correct note. And that's how I do it. That's how most people do it. Fine. That's the easiest way to do it. But you can start just very, very simply by thinking about, what kind of harmonica is it likely that the person is playing? You can hear the difference between a G harmonica, standard tune G harmonica, and an F sharp harmonica. The G harmonica is really low and resonant, and the F sharp harmonica is going to be quite cutting and shrill. So, ask yourself, is it a low harmonica or is it a high harmonica? And if you're not sure, then that's interesting as well. That means that it's probably somewhere in the middle. And then just start listening and thinking, well, okay, there's this strong note that they keep coming back to. And so I'm going to assume that that's the 2 draw, if it's kind of a standard second position sounding blues. And bit by bit, you're going to start adding in little bits of the licks, and you'll get an awareness for what something sounds like without the instrument in your hands. And that's how you really bridge the gap between hearing something, and that can be hearing something in your mind, and playing it through the instrument. And that means that you get to the stage that you're at with your language skills, where you can vocalize an idea. And that's all anyone's doing when they're speaking. They're improvising. So if you can do that with the instrument, if you can improvise so effectively that any kind of melodic idea that's in your mind can just come through the instrument, that's huge. And doing this kind of transcribing without an instrument in your hand, and then later on when you have the opportunity to checking your work, you're going to make mistakes, but bit by bit you'll get better at it. And that means that you'll really learn what all the notes sound like, and you'll start to learn what the different harmonicas sound like. And that's going to be a total game changer. Okay? So, to recap, the 3 things that you can do when you can't play your harmonica for whatever reason. The first one is listen to music. And I mean listen rather than hear music. The second one is visualize the instrument. Okay? And then the final one is transcribe harmonica music without the harmonica. Okay? So these are quite cognitively demanding, but they're really, really effective, and it means that you're not wasting time. And I certainly know that right now I'm really bummed out that I don't particularly want to have a harmonica in my mouth, but I want to be continuing my work because I've got a good practice routine. I don't want to break that. So try this. And hopefully next lesson I won't be so bunged up. I'll actually have a harmonica in my hand, and we'll play some tunes together. But yeah, thank you so much. If you've enjoyed this video, just give me a thumbs up by hitting the like button. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, then subscribe to it. I put out a new lesson every 2 weeks on Wednesdays. And normally I actually play some harmonica, so that would be great if you could subscribe to the channel. All right, see you soon. Happy harping.